to the University of Pittsburgh Department of Theater Arts Actors Panel for the Sunday, July 12th, 7:30 p.m. virtual production of She Kills Monsters by Qui Nguyen. Presented this summer for the first time as a virtual performance at the University of Pittsburgh. This is actually the third time that the Theater Arts Department has worked with a version of Nguyen's script. We'll discover more about the changes and challenges that such an undertaking presents by speaking to the actors. Here today to speak with me are past and present performers who have been part of one of these three productions. And we have Perry Walker and Julia Kreitzer, Ari Kramen, and Ariana Starkman. Now, Julia and Perry have both played the role of Agnes, while Ariana and Ari have both played the role of Tilly. And we have invited these badass ladies here today to speak to their experiences in bringing these characters to life. Very briefly, before we take it away, for anyone who is unfamiliar with this script, after Tilly dies in a car accident, her older sister Agnes discovers a Dungeons and Dragons notebook that Agnes then enlists a dungeon master to guide her through the contents of, and embarks on this fantastical, imaginative journey through the worlds that her sister Tilly created, where with the help of both her deceased sister and others, Agnes fights both literal monsters and figurative monsters, and the monsters inside of herself. So the first thing I'd like to know is, why this play and why these characters?
Well, I think something that Ashley and I were just recently discussing, something that's really cool about doing this script right now is that in many ways, it is very much a lesson in escapism for the characters and also for the actors. And I think at a time like this, it's not only really awesome to be able to be doing what we love, but it's also really cool to be able to really get a break from the everyday and really dive into this world that a lot of us weren't really familiar with.
Speaking of being familiar with, have you had, any of you had experiences with Dungeons and Dragons before?
I actually was not cool enough to be in the Dungeons and Dragons group in middle school, if that gives you an idea of where I'm coming from. So my family has always played, but I wasn't cool enough to be in the D&D group.
Wow. You are now, Perry.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I played like 2 times, once like very, very low prep, and then once like an 8-hour night with friends and a dungeon master who'd planned just kind of like a one-off quest. I also LARPed once, which
what was that like?
With this show, and being in the show, the LARPing actually relates so much to She Kills in the way we experience it through the play. So I've done that.
Could you, for anybody who's not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons or LARPing or this play, describe what that means and what that show does for those worlds and realms?
Of course. So LARPing is live action role play. So basically, in the smallest sense, like imagine you're living through the plot of Lord of the Rings in person. So people are running around in costumes with fake swords, and there's a story, and there's often some kind of magic. My LARP, like we started on a boat in the middle of the lake. Like that's where the game began. It was really cool. And then Dungeons and Dragons is a game. I'm gonna do my best. It's a game that has a dungeon master, and every game is different, but there's characters that kind of exist in the world, and if you've heard like chaotic good, chaotic evil, all of those things exist in Dungeons and Dragons, and basically the dungeon master plans a quest, and then the people on the quest experience it, and you get to make choices and have battles, and there's twists and people die, and it's crazy and exciting.
Thank you. So what's challenging about bringing this script to life? And then particularly, Ariana, you have dealt with this script both in person on stage and then in our digital version. So what does that change for you?
Yeah, and it's also interesting because it's 2 years later, so I've also changed. but the script itself, like Qui Nguyen, he adapted it for the virtual realms. So the characters have changed a little bit. The script has been updated. Things have been taken out. Some favorite moments, some moments that a lot of us are happy were edited. But the story itself, the characters, their truth, it all remains the same, but some things have changed. And it's interesting because this show first got so popular because of the intense focus on stage combat and women in stage combat. And that was such a huge experience for me, for everyone else going through. And now all of a sudden, when it's in the virtual realms, that's still such a big part of the story of these battles of Dungeons and Dragons, but there's not that space and it's not being told in the same way. There aren't these massive battles. It has to be more specific, smaller choices, but you're still able to tell such an amazing story. And I think a lot of what the story is about has the same through line, but it's just a different type of storytelling.
Yeah, particularly with the character of Agnes, a lot of the aesthetics of the characters have changed. In this version, in the Virtual Realms production, Agnes is a senior in high school. She's a cheerleader, which obviously brings a lot of new components to the character than Perry worked with. So it has been really freeing in a way to be able to really reinvent a lot of these characters, particularly because we have several members of the original cast in the production, but also a lot of people who've never worked with the script before. So it's been really cool to kind of mesh all of the different realms that have that Pitt has created with this production into kind of a big mega mix of all of them.
Fantastic description, mega mix. So what about your particular character, and I want to give everybody a moment to talk to this, what made your character a badass, and what did you connect with, and what was a stretch for you to understand or feel as you're building that?
I think what makes Tilly a badass is that she is a badass. There's no question of Tilly's badassery in the world of She Kills Monsters, because we only see two versions of Tilly. We see the way Agnes remembers her, and we see the version of herself that she wants to be, the version of herself that if she had been given the opportunity to grow up and age into herself, she might have been. And so Tilly's badassness is that she's the strongest, she's the toughest, she's the bravest. She knows the world better than anyone else because, like, it's her world. She built it and it belongs to her. And to even be able to build something like that is pretty badass, in my opinion.
Completely all of what Ari said. I mean, she is the epitome of badass warrior. And I also think she's just such a good leader. She has all these friends that she takes care of and allows them to take care of her too. And it is this, you only see how Agnes perceives Tilly and who Tilly really, really wants to be and gets to be. And that is this strong, fierce, loving badass in full character.
I think for me, the thing that originally had me connect with the character, like from callbacks onward, was the fact that the whole play is about a sister relationship, and I have two younger siblings, and so walking into callbacks, that's just such a powerful emotion to deal with. It's like the hypothetical of, like, what if I lost a sister? It's just that's like so much my worst nightmare that it made it really easy to connect with the character, if that makes sense. But then while I was working with her over the course of the fall production, I sort of realized that I thought that Agnes was, like, kind of a very angry character because she's angry that these things have happened and she's tired of being seen as a victim and being pitied for them. So that definitely informed how I was playing her in the fall. And I think it's revolutionary in some ways for a text to give a space for a woman to be angry and work through her anger instead of just pushing it down for the service and comfort of other people. But then again, when I returned to the text in the spring, she was way less angry, and I don't know if that's because I was in a different place or because I was playing with a different Tilly, but yeah, she calmed down a whole lot by April.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think similarly to Perry, something that I really connect with and really love about Agnes is the story arc and this evolution that we get to see of her really working through so many different stages of grief, both personally and also in terms of her relationship with Tilly. And I think something that I love is that she kind of at the beginning tries to really embark on this journey of like being very protective, as she thinks that a lot of, you know, badass women have to be, and seems like she's going into this D&D game to protect her sister in ways that she couldn't. And by the end, I think something that really makes her a badass in my mind is that she kind of realizes that she can still relinquish control and be a contributing member of this team, while still working to like be a partner with Tilly rather than simply focusing on you know, being the star of the show and really trying to protect her. And I really like that we also get to see her in the Virtual Realms production in particular, really be a badass with a lot of some of the other bullies that she gets to confront in the real world and of course in the virtual realm.
That is very strong connection both between sisters in characters, but sisters in life and that development. I have two younger sisters and really connect with that feeling. Like they're kind of the most important and worst people to you all at the same time. So I want to go back to somebody, I think Ariana, you mentioned that this is really big for the fight choreography and for the opportunity for women in stage combat. How familiar are each of you with stage combat, and what did this show give you in an opportunity to explore that?
So I've been fighting for 5 or 6 years now, and I'm certified in 6 weapons with the SAFD. So I'm pretty, stage combat's kind of my game. And it's so interesting because when you're in class all the time and you're studying the technicalities of these really specific weapons, it's easy to kind of like get stuck in the minutia of it. And actually the beauty of the world in She Kills is that it's allowed to be a little big and a little goofy and a little bit more imaginative than you would be in class when you're cutting to the 5 and the 2 and the 1. And so that was fun for me to get to explore that.
Yeah, I've been fighting now for 4 years, 5 weapons with SAFD and 4 with dueling arts. And something in the live stage production was we got to play a lot with tempo in terms of doing these slow-mo full battles, all the way to, you know, up to performance speed. But here in the virtual realms, we only have Julia, like 3 or 4, just like a punch and a slap. Pretty
No actual contact.
But also it's not these big fight scenes. Like I actually, in the virtual realms, I don't do any stage combat. Whereas on stage, you know, there are all these mass battles. The first thing we saw was a battle. So it's really different. But it's given me the opportunity to, on stage, I got to assistant fight choreograph and be fight captain, but here I get to see and watch how you choreograph fights on camera. And that's completely different. And not even on camera, but like camera of 2 people and they're both on camera, and how you navigate all of that.
And that's, I just want to point out, and for posterity purposes, every single one of us are speaking to each other from a different room, different space, different city, country. Like we are, you are making this performance happen in this case without any of that actual connection.
Yeah, I mean, I have the complete opposite experience. I have very little to no fight choreography experience. The only other production I've ever used stage combat in actually was fight choreographed by Ariana, my first week at Pitt. But it's been really interesting. I do a little bit of stage combat in the show, all with this cardboard sword that was mailed to my house, and a lint roller as well as my other weapon. Yeah, but I think it's been really cool to be able to, for me personally, it's been really educational in how I operate like as a single entity in working with stage combat. Everything else is in the traditional world would be it's really much a partner activity. But for me, I definitely feel a lot more comfortable maybe going into those situations now, because I do have, I know how there's some scenes where I choke myself as if someone else is. And so it's been really cool to be able to kind of play with those and feel very safe and secure, because I'm controlling all of the movement, but then really bring that with me as I hopefully, go back to a world where we can have stage combat in person.
Yeah, sort of similarly. I don't know if either of you remember Ari or Ariana, Peter and the Starcatcher. We were doing a combat workshop at the beginning, and I was afraid to do like a contact kick because I didn't want to hurt anyone. I was so afraid of hurting anybody. So it was definitely a new experience for me, learning all of the stage combat in the show. And I think what really helped me was deciding not to think about it as any different from like dance, which I am more familiar with, which is more part of my background, and just accepting it as another physical way to tell a story. Although I did stab Cheyenne in the stomach once, so.
It happens once in every production, it's fine.
Yeah. Not in ours.
Just don't stab yourself by mistake. So I'm wondering if you could just say, like, did you learn anything, or what did you learn about yourself by being involved in this show?
So much. 2 years ago, like, first getting to work with Tilly, just owning that badass warrior self, and learning a lot from my cast members in terms of bonding, in terms of how we're each our own badass. And our cast just really, really bonded. So learning a lot from that work, from assistant fight choreographing, everything like that, to like holding Tilly for 2 years throughout my life, and now coming to her again from this totally different perspective. I'm a lot older now, and I've been with her before, but still just this confidence and honesty and leadership that she has. I look up to her for that.
Thank you.
I've played 2 different roles in She Kills Monsters. So I played
I've forgotten.
Yeah, so the first time I did the show was in Chicago, and I played Calliope. And then I came back and I played Tilly. And it was really interesting playing 2 characters inside the party, because in some ways they're so similar. And our Chicago version, Calliope was very like straight and like not straight, obviously.
Right.
but very like direct and like no nonsense, a little like April Ludgate in The Office as well. And so like the difference between that like really solid, grounded strength and the comedy that comes from that, and then exploring Tilly to me, she's fierce and she's brave and she's badass, and she's also like a little bit of a brat. and getting to kind of find the strength in the brattiness and the strength in the inexperience and the strength in the honesty of the world. I think Tilly taught me kind of how to look for the strength in the honesty.
Nice. Just want to comment that Calliope is one of the D&D players we get to learn about and explore. And I so that is, you'll get to see that character when you join us.
For me, I think the biggest thing I learned came from the like mini revival we did at the August Wilson Center. And that was just the experience of doing a show for an audience of people who 100% of them wanted to be there. There wasn't anyone in the audience who like had to come see it for class or whatever. Every single person who bought a ticket wanted to see that show. And the audience response to it was like nothing I had ever experienced before. And I'm getting emotional. And just really cemented for me that like telling stories like that is what I want to do. So.
And just to jump on that, the importance of telling a story, someone's story that doesn't often get told. You know, I mean, there's elements in this that we see on stage a lot, but like the intimacies and the intricacies of the D&D world, they're so specific. And like having done the show a bunch of times, like I know what it's like to do it for an audience. It's like, oh, this is fun. D&D is cool. And I know what it's like to do it for an audience who gets every single joke and knows every single character. Like when Tilly entered in the August Wilson production and had like that first pose, it was like a minute of applause because they were so in the world, because it was their world and it meant so much to them. And so, yeah, the beauty in getting to tell a story to its own audience is big.
Yeah, I think something that I've learned not only from Agnes as a character, but from this experience as a whole, is very much resilience is kind of the theme of this production for me. And I think not only is Agnes very resilient and, you know, overcoming really like unspeakable grief in a lot of ways, and also like a lot of longing and loss that she's going to have through this experience. But I think personally, not only in working with this character, but with this cast and crew and directors and everyone involved has really just been, you know, a refusal to let this industry like die, and really, and this department as a whole. I think it's been a really resilient act that everyone has gone so above and beyond to make sure that theater can happen. And it gives me a lot of hope. You know, I have 2 years left at Pitt, and, you know, we'll see what everything brings in the next few years, but it just brings me a lot of hope that everyone in this department, from the students all the way up to Ashley and Anne-Marie and all the directors, like, are just as excited and committed as we all are to make sure that this still gets to happen. And I think that's something that I talked about a lot in terms of seeing how much coverage this production has gotten. It's made me really excited to realize that a lot of people are still itching for art at this time. And for me, it's been a big escape, but it also has made me the most confident and excited about this industry as I've really ever been in recent memory.
Wow, that is a really lovely note. So I want to close because we need to release actors to head to rehearsal. Other people have scheduled things for the day, and I have some more work to do. So what I'd like to do is remind everybody that you can see the virtual production of She Kills Monsters starting with the live presentation on Sunday, July 12th at 7:30 p.m. You have to go to our website to purchase a ticket, although tickets are free, donations are welcome, but you can purchase a ticket and then you get an emailed link that has the link to see the production. And then for the next 2 weeks until I believe the 14th, can't see a calendar from this far, the show will be available through Vimeo, and so our website will also have a link for that too. But in closing, I just want to give you an opportunity to share something that we didn't cover very briefly, or to say something that you are thrilled about with theater or your life and in this quarantine time in general.
Just so grateful to get to work with everyone. I mean, Ari was she taught me how to be a fight captain my freshman year at Pitt. And just getting to work with everyone here has been so amazing, so heartwarming, such support from the department. And it's been so wonderful during quarantine, during everything, to return to this show with new and old people and like talk with the old cast, share photos, and then also just be so excited. Like in our chat box when we're in rehearsals, talking with all these new people or sharing the photo in the New York Times, just all this bonding that can happen.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to get to pop back into my department so many times after graduating. It's nice to know that it's still there and still making badass artists. And I hope that people watch this online production and they see the badassness that these women and these characters have. And I hope that, you know, the audience can harness that and take it out into the world and be badass, because we need some badass warriors out there in the world right now. So,
is there a badass thing you'd like to plug before we go?
I do have a web series I'm working on. It's called Drip. You can find us at Drip Web Series on Instagram and Facebook. Our website is Drip Web Series. It's about two witches in Chicago. We shoot in August, so cross your fingers.
Perry, Julia?
Oh, sure. Something that I think I'll take away from this experience that has been really exciting is getting to work with a lot of people that I might not have in a traditional setting. I mean, Ariana and I haven't worked together in any kind of actor capacity. Our paths haven't crossed too much in the 2 years we were together at Pitt. So it's been really cool to be able to, form these bonds with people that I really probably wouldn't have otherwise, both from an actor standpoint and working with this crew, but also it's been really awesome to be able to, really put all of my time and effort into developing Agnes in her own right during a time like this. It's been a very welcome distraction.
Yeah, and I guess what I would say, sort of along the lines of what Ari said, is that I think I'm really excited to see the show again on Sunday, and I think this is a show in particular that, because it deals so thoroughly with what stories can be and storytelling can do for us, I think it's going to inspire people to use storytelling to work through whatever it is that they're dealing with right now. And I think that's one of the best and most inspiring things a piece of art can do.
Thank you. Thank you all for taking the time to join us. Wonderful final rehearsals, dress rehearsals. Best of luck in what's up next. And thank you. We're going to sign off now.
Thank you.